Alright, today we're going to do a water pump on a 2006 Cadillac DTS. 2006 Cadillac DTS, powered by North Star V8. A little bit dirty, but nonetheless. Now if you notice you got a bad water leak coming from around this area here, right below the intake in the front of the engine, straight down, that's going to be your water pump. What you may want to note is this little cover right here. There's a belt that drives and runs the water pump. And if you're coming into the same thing I have, you'll find that belt is disintegrated. What happens is the water pump actually locks up, drags that belt across them two pulleys. That's the camshaft pulley, that's the tensioner pulley. It'll drag them across there on the water pump pulley. Let's see if we can go look at that. It's down there, trust me, it's down there. But your water pump locks up, drags across, and destroys everything. What we're going to do is start by removing this bracket. It's got a 10 here and 2 10s down there. We're going to remove those, remove the air intake hose, take the cover off the engine. It just pops straight off. This one's missing most of the clips that are here, but usually what you will have to do is depress the center pin. There'll be a black plastic with a little round hole in the middle. If you depress that middle, you'll be able to pop those right out. Somebody's abused this vehicle and it's missing them, so we're going to put some new ones in there when we go back. But right now we're going to remove this cover, just pull this cover off, remove the hose, get a few things out of the way right here. Remove the lower radiator hose and get ready to go. Okay, so we removed our top cover, removed the front shield. I took off the upper radiator hose and laid it back over here to the side. Removed my air intake hose, and I've removed the bolts off of this bracket here, which will reveal the camshaft drive pulley and the tensioner pulley. Now when the water pump pulley locks up, what it does is it just destroys this pulley here. And the tensioner pulley, let's see if I can get a shot of it, it destroys it as well. So not only are you going to have to do the water pump, but you're going to have to do this pulley, which is pressed on. I'll show you about it early. And this pulley here, which is the tensioner pulley, because if you don't, it'll just eat your belt up, tear it all up. So little job's starting to become a big job. Now, the water pump is going to be part of a whole assembly that goes across the front here. Don't be scared. We're going to get into that. It's not too terribly bad if y'all just stick with me, step by step. On these little hoses here at the back that I took off the intake, if you'll notice there's a white tab on the back. And then when you look down the side, you'll see those clips. Well, if you push in, get that out of the way, if you push in on it right here, you'll release the clip and be able to release those things. That's how these quick disconnect fittings are undone. You press in on the big part and it'll come right off. So right now what we're going to do is we're going to jump in there and undo all these little hoses, little clamps we can find. Any little hoses, I've already undone this one. You want to undo the little hoses. And then we'll get into the wiring harnesses, anything that's connected up here on the top. We want to disconnect that too. Little air hoses that run back to the vacuum booster, we want to undo that. I'm just going to go around and unhook the basic little junk, what I can get to, and I'll show you when I'm done. Okay, so we released all the electrical connections here off the throttle body. We came around on this side, we caught your idle air control motor, undid your electrical connectors down here across the top of the transmission. Now we're going to remove this breather box out of the room to give us a little bit more working room to get to the other cooler line that comes down to here. We slid the clamp back, but we're going to have to get over here. I'll show you in a minute when we get down there. But right now we're going to come into the breather box, and down here on the bottom you'll find a series of these clips. Just knock them clips back, undo your mass airflow meter, and then pick up on this, and let's remove the air breather and give us a little bit more room to work, and we'll get a really good look at that water pump then. Okay, so here's a good view one time the air box is out of the way. You can see we've undone all of our electrical connectors. We've got our hoses loose, undid our electricals over here, our hoses, and basically what we're going to work on now is get into the actual water pump. There's going to be a series of bolts. You're going to have them two right there. that go through to the tensioner. You're going to have to remove those to get the tensioner off, and obviously we're going to do that. And if you'll inspect around the housing, you'll find several more bolts. A couple of them are going to be hidden, like right there up underneath the pulley. I think those are going to be 13s. But in essence, what we're going to do is take off this piece of metal. Of course, the throttle body is going to be hooked to it too. Don't be scared. What we're going to do is come around to the back side, and there's a rubber hose here held on with a clamp up underneath this line. We're going to move this electrical wire out of the way on top of the throttle body, and we'll get to the rubber clamp that holds onto this to there. So when we take the water pump off, we'll get the whole unit off. Right now, what I'm going to work on is getting this this bracket out of the way that holds onto the fuel line. It's going to be in the way. We don't necessarily have to undo the fuel line. This right here takes a special tool. I'm going to do it with it connected so you guys can see how it's done. The tool's only a few dollars. You can get one, and you'll be able to undo the line easily. But right now we're going to jump on and get onto the pump, and I'm going to check my messages. So we removed the 2 bolts. I removed the bolt right there, and I removed that bolt right there. Those are going to slam through to the housing. Now, what we're going to work on next, oh yeah. So I removed the bolt right there below the thermostat housing. It goes all the way through, 13 millimeter. I also removed the bolt right there below the cam drive pulley, also 13 millimeter, right there. And I also loosened up this bracket here, what I was talking about. I removed this nut, I loosened the tin, and take this one out. Now, you'll notice this is on a slot. Let's see if I can get a photo of it. There's a slot right here, so what you'll want to do is pick up a little bit on the fuel line, not a lot. You don't want to bend it or distort it, definitely don't want to crack it, but you want to bend it up just a little bit to where this bracket will clear and come out. There's the slot. So you're going to lift this up and clear this bracket out of the way. So that's all we've done, is remove them couple of bolts, removing this bracket. Then we're going to remove the bolts out of this thermostat housing cover here. These 10 millimeters around on the outside cover, we're going to remove those so we can slide it off this hose. Then we're going to remove this wiring harness. Remember where this wiring harness was right here? It's blocking that clamp on the back. We're going to remove this wiring harness out of the way so we can get that clamp on the hose in the back while we're up here too. So those are the next 2 steps I'm going to do. So I'm going to remove this cover and loosen that clamp. And remove all these nuts out around the thermostat housing. There's 4, 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom. One time you get it, you just smack it. Here the water goes. Now we're going to be able to pull it off of this hose here. I also pulled back that wiring harness, like I said, right down through there. There's going to be a clamp right there. You're going to want to release that one. You don't have to take it all the way out, just release it a little bit. It's a 9/32 versus the other ones were 5/16 or 8 millimeter. So that's where we're at right now. We're just going to remove that cover, and we've done that. And now I'll show you a little bit more. Let's go ahead and take that cover out. Okay, so I removed the housing down there, the 4 bolts holding that housing on, took it off. Now this is the back side of the water pump. And this is his nice water pump. Bearings are locked up, won't even turn. And that's what caused his damage on his belt and his 2 pulleys. Now, the reason we did all that is so we could get to the first real pain in the butt bolt that we're going to deal with. See if I can get to it. She's right there. You'll see it's on the bottom side down there at the corner, right against that wiring harness. That's what makes it such a pain in the butt to get to. Just the first of many to come on this job, so don't get all antsy about, oh my God, this bolt's so hard to get to. So we got some more harder ones to get to in just a minute on this side. Okay, I wanted to show you guys how I get that bolt out. Don't want to leave y'all hanging. That big wiring harness that's running across there to be breaking that bolt, if you'll see, what I did was I grabbed a hold of it right here and I just pulled it up and out of the groove and got it around on top of the bolt. Now you can see my extension is already in place with the socket on it, so I'm going up underneath the wiring harness straight to the bolt. Not so bad. You just got to spend a minute to get the harness up into the position where you needed it, and you're going to need to get that harness up anyway to get to the other side. But anyway, that's how I did it, right up underneath the harness one time you pulled it up. Okay, so I removed that bolt down there and slid it all the way back as far as it'll go. It's going to hit on the transmission housing, and you're not going to be able to fully remove it at this time. However, remember that when you put this thing back together, that bolt needs to be in the housing, because you won't be able to reinsert it one time the pump's on there either. So you're going to need to put the bolt in the pump and then install it at the same time. Now we're going to get over here to the really fun side. It's really not that bad. The EGR tube. This is the EGR valve right here, this big thing on top. The EGR tube, that metal tube coming around in the back of it's held on by a 1/2" nut. We're going to remove that nut. And then right below that on this housing, you're going to have 2 nuts. There's one. The other one's right there, trust me, it is there. There's going to be 2 nuts right here, right below the housing. And then on down, if you'll follow the little bar on down, there's going to be 2 nuts down there holding on to the lower leg too.